Welcome back, Bears fans, to another live edition of the Bears Brothers podcast. The Bears unfortunately fell to the New York Giants. They scored 16-22 today. It was a tough game for the Bears. A lot of injuries happened. Brandon and I will break them down. And as you could tell, obviously Will isn't here yet. Fortunately, doesn't get the game. So I will be your host for today. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host Brandon Hazlett. Brandon, how are you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. I feel a little more perked up, even though the Bears still lost. I've seen some good things today, so I'm feeling all right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling okay too because just the Bears were actually in this game. I honestly did not expect it at all. It was, we're only down by a touchdown, not even a touchdown. Touchdown would have won the game. The Bears fought really hard today despite all the injuries, but we'll get into all that as we usually do. So let's break it down, Brandon. First quarter of the show, which consists of our opening segments, our most valuable Bears, but we're gonna try and see what the monster moment of this game would be. Obviously, Will does this segment. And for me, my monster moment was that Jay Cutler touchdown to Zach Miller. Beautiful ball. Beautiful ball, Zach Miller. It was a huge momentum booster for the Bears. And they were doing some good things. It was on their opening drive, but I'm going to say that would have been Will's monster moment. What about you?
My monster moments of the game are going to be the 3 3-and-outs that the Bears defense forced in the fourth quarter to keep them in the game, essentially. And then Mega Punt was able to, when the Bears couldn't capitalize, pin the Giants offense back farther than what they'd anticipated. So the defense was able to step up when they had to. And so my monster moments are going to be those 3 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter to keep the Bears in it in that last quarter.
And that's actually a really good monster moment because the Bears were in it. And I was very surprised to see that the Bears kept on forcing 3-and-outs. They really kept them in the game there. I think Will would have been all right with either one. Yours is more creative than mine, maybe because mine was just a touchdown. But those 3-and-outs really helped the Bears. Would have helped the Bears ahead on them. So, Brandon, we're gonna go to your stat of the game. And what is your stat?
The Bears offense going 4 of 12 on third down. The offense, like we talked about in the previous show, has been stagnant for the most part. And going 4 for 12 on third down, 33%. They've got to be able to execute better on third downs. And even towards the end of the game, they were getting some very long third down situations. And that can't happen if the Bears want to put up more than 16, 17 points in a game. It seems that's their breaking point. Once they hit 16, the offense is just kind of done. And in order for the team to continue to improve, we have to be able to situations.
No doubt about it. And that's a good stat to read because that was a big impact on this game, how the Bears offense didn't do their job on third downs. So we'll go into my knack or knock of the game. And, usually when the Bears lose, I go to my knocks, and I'm unfortunately going to go to a knock this time. And it's just the second half of this game. And we've seen it, game in and game out, that the Bears in the second half, they just start off slow. They give up that opening touchdown in the second half to the Giants, then go 3-and-out, then give up another touchdown. It just seems like this Bears team is just a different team out of halftime, and I just don't understand what it is. I don't know if it's really, can you say it's coaching? Of course you can, but the players are out there making the plays or lack of plays, and the Bears are just not getting it done in the second half, and that's really what the Achilles heel of this team is. It's first half, great. The Bears played, really well in that first half. Second half, just gave it up at the end, and the Bears got their 8th loss of the season. So let's hand out our most valuable Bears. Brandon, I'm going to start with you. Who was your most valuable Bear today?
I'm going to give it to Zach Miller, even though he went out with an injury. He was very impactful to start the game. For the day, he only had 3 receptions for 61 yards on the touchdown, like you talked about in your monster moment. But he made a big impact in the absence of Alshon Jeffrey, someone that Jay Cutler knows he can look to, and he proved it. He targeted him 3 times, made all 3 receptions and a touchdown. He has to be the most valuable player, even though he didn't play the whole game. He made a big impact on the offense in the first half.
Gotcha. I like that most valuable Bear. This one was kind of tough for me. I was going to say Jay Cutler up to the interception there, but I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Tracy Porter because he did a very good job against Odell Beckham, and really everyone was a part of that. But Tracy Porter did well, and he got injured with the knee, came back. The guy is just a tough dude, and week in and week out. He's battling that knee injury. He's battling injuries, and he's just going out and playing well. And Odell Beckham's obviously one of the best wide receivers in the game right now, and he did his part. Limiting Odell to what I don't know is correct, yardage, but he did a great job. Obviously, he didn't get in the end zone. So my most valuable Bear would be Tracy Porter. I wish I would have heard what Will's would have been, but
I think that's
obviously
very well
not being
deserving, though. That's a very well deserving most valuable Bear given everything he's been through, and I think it's time that we start recognizing him a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, both you can't obviously. There's no wrong answer to this. Both of our opinions, but we're both spot on there. I would say. So before we get into our second quarter of our show, I just want to talk about our partners that we have on the show, SeatGeek, and obviously Will always says that my parents have used it. I'm actually home now, and my parents have used SeatGeek, and they find great seats for great prices, and the Bulls they just lost yesterday, so you can go to Bulls game. Blackhawks are in season. If you still want to go watch the Bears, you obviously can do that. But using SeatGeek is a great way to find, good seats for a cheap price. So I encourage you guys, all of our listeners, to go out and use them. So let's enter in the second quarter of our show, Brandon, and we're going to analyze the offense. And, in the first half, like we said, the Bears were really rolling, and they were doing that by running the ball. And I really liked what Dow Loggins was doing with the offense, running the ball with Howard and just getting the running game going. That opened up that Zach Miller touchdown, that play action pass. So we'll start off by analyzing the quarterback, obviously Jay Cutler. Brandon, what were your thoughts on him and how he played today?
I thought he played pretty well for the most part. He looked real sharp in the first half. He had that touchdown, like we've said, I think 3 times now to Zach Miller. The only knock on him is that interception at the end, but he kind of planted awkwardly and he just kind of underthrew it. So not a whole lot when you can do when you're falling. He was sacked 4 times for the day. He went 17 of 30 for 252 yards. Played a bad game today. He showed kind of what we've seen in Minnesota or against Minnesota, where he looked more consistent, and I think running the ball really helped today. But overall, I don't think Jay played a bad game at all today.
No, and I agree with you on that one. With what Jay Cutler had today, with 3 of his starting offensive linemen, out of the game, with Justin just being the third one who got injured later in the game. And then the receivers, minus Alshon Jeffrey, a lot of guys had to step up. We saw Deontay Thompson come with a couple catches, Josh Bellamy. We'll talk about the receivers in a bit, but Jay Cutler was under constant duress all game, whether other right tackle, but go right ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I was going to say, being under constant duress, and even on top of the one solid starter that they had, Leno let one go by today too, which really surprised me. We haven't talked about him quite as much this year as we have in the past. But just adding on to your offensive line struggles, which we might as well just add here, talking about the quarterbacks. I feel it's an important issue.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Long not being there, Josh Sitton, Josh Leno, or Jared Leno, you can't have that from one of your solid guys when you're missing 3 of the 5 on the front line.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Really, the offensive line, we've seen guys come up and, step up and play huge roles like Eric Kush and Kush, and then forgetting Ted Larson. Yes, and they did it against Minnesota. Today, against this Giants defense, they weren't as effective. And, backups did not come in ready to play. And that really affected Jay Cutler and what he was able to do. But, like you said, we'll just might as well get into this offensive line as we're talking about him. But with, Justin just going down and with, constant backups here, I don't know what to really expect from this Bears offensive line moving forward. And they play Tennessee next week, and we'll talk about that later. But I don't know, this offensive line, we saw them take a step backwards. That's for sure. What do you think about that, Brandon?
I think Will may be a little maybe disappointed to hear when I say we're missing Bobby Massey, because it seems like Jason Pierre-Paul kind of had his way with Mike Adams, the backup tackle there. And aside from Leno letting the one sack get away, it seemed like Adams was always right there in Cutler's face, getting ready to throw the ball. And that's something that he's going to have to continue to work on. I know Jason Pierre-Paul is kind of an animal in himself. They don't quite have that big athletic guy in Tennessee. But that's got to improve going forward, or else Jay is not going to be able to throw the ball with much accuracy at all.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that one. They actually did miss Bobby Massey, and that's usually before, in the pregame shows, we're like, all right, how's Bobby Massey going to do against the top edge rusher, which he always somehow finds a way to face. But the Bears did miss him, and it kind of shows that we actually do, need him. And he's not he did struggle in the beginning of the season, but he got better as the season progressed. So we did miss him, that is for sure. So, Brandon, let's go and talk about the running backs. And obviously, Jordan Howard had a great first half, and he was running the ball effective. Dow Longs was dialing up plays for him. But one thing I saw from him, which was pretty disappointing, and I know Will has talked about that he's seen him have good hands. He had a couple drops today, and there was a big drop, late in the game where Jay Cutler, under duress again, finds a way to move outside the pocket and throws a perfect ball to Jordan Howard. And he just plain drops it. Other than that, I mean, obviously Jordan Howard's been doing his thing, especially with that offensive line that was, struggling like we talked about. But that bit, maybe he needs to work on the hands. And we saw Langford last season also had to work on his hands. But other than that, I thought, Jordan Howard played an all right game. I liked what Jeremy Langford did when he came in. Obviously, blocking sometimes wasn't there for Jeremy Langford. But I did like what I saw of the running backs. Just got to work on the hands.
I agree. I was actually very surprised that Jordan Howard got off to start the day because this is a very tough Giants defense to run on. So props to Dow Loggins and the offense for getting Jordan Howard going early because it helped the offense flow a lot easier in the first half. That's when they got all their points. But Jeremy Langford came in. He made a couple big receptions today. I think I would have rather seen him in those passing situations, but I totally get why Jordan Howard's in there because he's a hot running back right now. And John Fox said you stick with the hot hand. So between those two, I think I'd rather have Jeremy Langford now having those receptions, but I understand totally why Jordan Howard's out there trying to make those catches, but he had 2 or 3 of them that he just has got to haul in when we need him, especially down there inside our own 10. He dropped 2 of them back to back.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Those were, even though it's not going to be a big play on the stat sheet, just getting outside of your end zone on those 2 short passes is definitely going to help Pat O'Donnell, who had a great game. And man, if Will was here, he'd be really surprised. He would be, what's going on here? We'll talk about the special teams a little bit later, but before we, head into our defense, we still have to talk about the wide receivers and tight ends. There's not much depth on this Bears team right now. I feel like, when you have to start Deontay Thompson, who really hasn't done much this season at wide receiver or kick returner that much. He did have a good return today, but the wide receivers, they didn't really impress me today per se because, Royal didn't do much. I didn't see Cameron Meredith. He wasn't very involved. But Zach Miller, like we talked about, he was a huge factor in the game until he got injured, and that was Jason Pierre-Paul stepping on his foot, and we still don't know the severity of Zach Miller's injury, but how do you see that the wide receivers and tight ends did in this game, Brandon?
Last week you said they struggled to get open against the Buccaneers defense, and I think I kind of seen it again today, and that kind of comes with the lack of depth and lack of game playing experience. We've seen, like we said, Zach Miller, Marquise Wilson had the nice 35-yard catch down the sideline in the game. Cameron Meredith had 4 receptions today for 49 yards, kind of quiet. Receptions. There's no one that has more than 4, which is nice to see. I think without Alshon, Jay's able to spread the ball around a little more. He doesn't feel pressured to get the ball to Alshon, and I think that kind of opens up the offense a little bit. But when you have guys that just aren't as game experienced as Alshon or Zach Miller when he went out, it's hard to get the ball around when they're not going to get open. So I think the lack of depth is definitely an issue right now. But I think as the season goes on, when we get some guys back, Alshon comes back in 3 games now, help. But I don't see him being a huge addition if Cutler can't spread the ball around like he did today. I thought he did a good job of that.
Yeah, definitely. At this point of the season, 2-8, I would want to see maybe Daniel Braverman maybe get into the mix of things. Might as well get some, these guys that, and we saw on the defensive side, Deion Bush get some reps today at the starting safety. Get Daniel Braverman in there. That's not going to hurt your team, moving forward into next season. You're getting young guys reps that are going to be very impactful moving forward. And at this point, like we said, the wide receivers kind of had a tough time getting open. So might as well give this guy some, reps. I would think. Do you agree with me on that one, Brandon, or you have another?
I agree.
Thoughts?
I'd like to see Braverman out there, get him some time. And we also seen Ben Braunecker today, a rookie tight end out of Harvard. He didn't catch any receptions, but I've seen him on there on the sidelines. I've seen him on the field a couple times. So it's nice to see that some of these younger 2016 draft picks are getting time, and hopefully Daniel Braverman adds to the mix because it'd be nice to see these young playmakers that Ryan Pace is bringing in get some time and some experience.
Yeah, exactly. We've talked about it all season now. Just, you know, when the season kind of was starting to go south, a big positive of this season was just to develop these rookies, these young players heading into next season. And they've done a fairly good job at progressing, you know, each and every game. So we'll just address some questions here. Brandon, what would you say the offense did well this game? Because there were some aspects of the game where they did do, you know, somewhat, you know, some of the positives of the offense from today.
I think they did a good job of keeping balance. 30 passes, 25 rushes. I don't think it gets much more balanced than that. I mean, you could be like
No, yeah.
28, and I think that kept the Giants on their toes a little bit, especially in that first half when they were playing real well, scored all 16 points. And then in the second half to start, they kind of stuck to the run heavy thing, which is fine. But when it's not going anywhere, you got to be able to do a couple run fakes here and there. And then we've seen it as the second half went on. They were able to we've seen Jay Cutler with an option play to spice things up. We've seen a couple run fakes. So I think those are things that they should have maybe done earlier, but that's just looking back. I would have stuck with the run two at the time, so I can't really blame Dow Loggins and John Fox there. But overall for the offense, I thought just keeping balance, and I do believe they owned the time of possession today. Yes, that's in 30 seconds to New York Giants, 29 minutes and 31 seconds. So
Pretty
a
close.
30-second difference, but or
Yeah,
a minute
no.
difference. So I mean that's good that they were able to control. That's something we talked about, that the defense was gassed last week because they weren't hardly, the offense wasn't on the field. So it was nice to see more balance and able to control the time of possession. This is how the Bears were so close in all the games last year, is because they controlled the time of possession. If they can continue to do that for the rest of these games, I like our chances of at least being in games instead of getting blown out.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the first half, the Bears actually had 6 passing and 6 rushing first downs. So just shows the balance of that balance of the attack that the Bears did have. And I like that Dow Loggins, even though they were down in the second half, he still stuck to the run. And you said it before, they actually stayed pretty consistent in both the run and pass. But now we'll talk about something that they didn't do well. And obviously, you already hit on it with your stat. Those third down conversions were very disappointing for me. And just to see that the Bears could not sustain drives and just couldn't get things going in that in the second half. And first half, they did a pretty good job at it because they scored in their first 3 offensive possessions. And then the second half came where work as well as they used to, and you know they couldn't get the running game as effective as it was in the first half. So what would you say are some disappointing things that you saw from the Bears offense?
Third downs, like I said, and you just said it. Maybe aggressiveness. I like that Ben McAdoo, the coach of the Giants, he was 2 for 2 on fourth downs. I know the Bears weren't necessarily in fourth down territory today, but maybe for some parts in the season we see the play calling become a little bit more aggressive. I think maybe that'll help spark something if the Bears can convert one of them. You know, I think that's something that the offense needs, is they need a little extra push forward, and I think being maybe a little more aggressive in play calling would make a difference. But aside from fourth downs or third downs, I mean, there wasn't really a whole much to knock the offense on. Just once they had a negative play, it's just hard for them to overcome that on third downs, and that's been the story all year.
Yeah, and you bring up those negative plays. It just seemed like in that second half, they were starting off first down by going backwards multiple times on each consecutive drive. And once that happened,
the Giants were able to sniff out a couple of those Jordan Howard toss plays early.
Exactly,
in the
yeah.
second half.
Yes, and once the Giants figured that out, and that Bears offense really started off, you know, in negative yards, especially on first down, it was really hard for them to overcome and get anything moving forward. So what would you say the unit needs to work on for next week against Tennessee at home at Soldier Field?
Just keep doing what you're doing, to be honest. I don't see, like, you could always get better. There's no such thing as perfect. So I would say get the backup offensive line more reps. Don't know if Josh Sitton will be back next week with the ankle injury. Not sure about Bobby Massey. I assume he will be. If it was just a concussion injury, he may come back next week, which will be a big boost. But I think getting these backup offensive linemen, if we're going to continue to see injuries that take guys out of games, the next guy up has to be able, like we've said all year, next man up has got to be able to make a difference. And I think the offensive line, that's where you win and lose games. And I think maybe this is where the Bears lost it today. It's just a little bit less talent in that front in the trenches.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what this unit needs to do, just working forward, is just like you say, get those backups. Some more game reps. Obviously, in practice, they'll get better. And then I still think, regardless of where the Bears are at, they still need to run that ball because, like we
Yep.
said, if they win time of possession, that keeps them in games, and it obviously opens up the play action pass, which we saw was little, effective in that Zach Miller touchdown that I brought up probably like 5 times today, but that's the strength of your off on the offensive side of this team right now. So just keep doing that and get those, backup linemen some reps because, with the way the Bears have been injured, they're probably going to see some playing time going into next week. So now let's enter into the third quarter of our show where we talk about this Bears defense. And we'll start with the D line. Honestly, Brandon, for me today, I didn't see much. It's not even just the D line, but the front seven, they really didn't get to Eli Manning. And I'm just going to put it out there. Pernell McPhee was talking a lot of crap going into this game. And he said, we are going to get Eli Manning. I don't think he was sacked once today. Was he sacked today, Brandon? I don't think he was.
He was not. Looking at the stat sheet right now, 0 sacks.
0 sacks. He did have one good. He had a good pressure at the end there, which is almost an interception. But the D line, we'll start with them right now. But obviously Eddie Goldman didn't play, and then they had to put Akeem Hicks either in the middle or they put C.J. Wilson out there. And I thought that C.J. Wilson actually had the most pressure out of any of the Bears today. And when I saw his name, I'm like, C.J. Wilson, huh? And then I had to, go in the Bears app and, see where he was from and stuff. But, D-line really didn't get to the quarterback as, obviously we want him to get to the quarterback every play, but that's obviously unrealistic. But they didn't play as great as I thought they would play. What about you, Brandon? What did you think of their play?
I have to agree. They were hot. They've had a couple games where they've had a lot of sacks now, and I figured they'd just keep building on that. And today they didn't get to quarterback hardly at all. C.J. Wilson had 2 quarterback hits, and that led to Akeem Hicks had 1. So those are 3 quarterback hits through the whole game. The Giants' offensive line, props to them, even with Marshall Newhouse going out at right guard, I believe. The next man up was able to step in there and keep him protected. So I guess you just have to give props to them because one of John Lynch's points to the game on Fox was that this front seven's real, and they pretty much did a good job of shutting down the front 4 anyway. So they didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, no, they definitely didn't.
Bottom line.
Definitely didn't. And, we've been wanting to see now Jonathan Bullard become more of an impact player. And really, when I was watching him a couple plays, he just doesn't have that push that he did in college. And, he's still a rookie. You don't obviously don't want to knock him for that. But, I want to see him start to be a factor. And I just didn't see that today. I don't know if you did, but just wasn't.
Coming out of the draft, John Fox and Pace were both saying that, he's quick off the snap. He's quick off the snap. But I haven't seen it yet. I've seen it more from Leonard Floyd, and he was the one that I wasn't necessarily happy with drafting. He's proven me wrong. Hopefully he gets better, by the way. One of our big injuries today. But Jonathan Bullard, that's just the name that we haven't talked much about this year. I know he's been in there some plays, but when he's in there, you hardly ever hear of him. I know that was one of the things Will was watching last week or 2 weeks ago, and he had the first tackle of the game, and then that was it. You didn't hear from him after that. So if he's quick, then he must not be as quick as we're all thinking he is, because I don't know where he's at out there on the field most times.
No, exactly. I think when he's kind of a smaller lineman, and I think now that's him now in the NFL going against, obviously these humongous human beings that he's going against every week. So yeah, maybe now it's starting to see, hey,
Right.
Maybe I need to bulk up because my quickness is not a factor. But then again, we can't knock Leonard Floyd for that because he hasn't really gotten bigger, but it's been proving that he's able to get to the quarterback. But, hopefully he gets better throughout the season because the Bears need depth on that, defensive line because, again, injuries have happened there too. Injuries have happened every single position for this Bears team. So let's get into the linebackers now. Again, I didn't see much from them either. Jarrell Freeman, Danny Trevathan, I saw filled the gaps a few times, made a few good plays, but nothing very impactful. I made, a big hit really switches momentum. Wasn't much of those this game. And like we said, the edge rushers really didn't do their job. And Pernell McPhee is in this group because I was not happy with what you did today. Honestly, when you talk the talk, you better walk the walk, and just.
Yep.
And you know what the thing was, Brandon? He wasn't really out there very much when it was, beginning of drives, defensive drives. He wasn't out there. It was Willie Young, Leonard Floyd, which I don't have a problem with. But for a guy who's talking this much, he's not even playing as much as, we'd like him to play. And I find that as a problem if you're just going to talk and not actually, back it up. What about you? I mean, McPhee wasn't out there, and I wonder why that is.
No, that's definitely an issue if you can't back up what you're saying, because then you have no right to talk. At least that's how I've always played sports. If you're going to talk, you got to back it up. But linebackers, I thought they weren't very flashy. They were able to stop the run for the most part today, which is a good sign. Even the front four, I know we kind of said they didn't do a whole lot, but they were able to keep the run game from getting too far out of hand. And Danny Trevathan and Jarrell Freeman both did a pretty good job of keeping the run stuffed as well. Danny Trevathan led the team in tackles today with 11, and Jarrell Freeman right behind him with 10. And I thought Jarrell Freeman played pretty decent coverage, as well as Danny Trevathan. There was one of, I think it was Odell Beckham caught on the sideline, and Sam Acho was able to run out there behind him and force the fumble and keep him from getting the first down on a 3rd and medium or something like that. So that was nice to see out of Sam Acho anyway when he replaced Leonard Floyd. So I wouldn't say that they didn't do anything. Because they were able to do some. It just wasn't flashy, not the big hits, but I thought they got the job done for the most part.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely won't say they weren't a factor in the game, because obviously they were. They did make, like you said, some stops, and I love that play from Sam Acho. That was a big play because it stopped the Giants offense and Odell from getting that first down because he popped the ball out, and that's where, the Giants offense just stopped right there. But, I think we just expect more from this unit, because we're looking at it, this probably is our strongest unit, outside to inside linebackers, because we just have I believe we have playmakers, James Trevathan, Freeman, Floyd, Willie Young, and Pernell McPhee. But, we didn't see it as much as we would have liked to today. That's for sure.
Yes.
So we'll get into the secondary now. And man, Brandon, this secondary just got, they just could not stay on the field. They were injured. And, we see, Crevon LeBlanc come out after he misses a huge 4th down tackle. And then, Tracy Porter comes out. At one point you have, who was it? You had Hurst, and then you had McManus out there. It's asking a lot. And then you have Deion Bush starting for his first game. But still, I thought they did a pretty decent job. Like we said, Odell Beckham didn't have a big day. Obviously, they give up a wide open pass to Sterling Shepard, but with what Vic Fangio has had to deal with all season with guys in and out of the lineup, I thought the secondary did a pretty good job with a pass heavy, Giants offense. What do you think? How do you think that the secondary played today?
First of all, two big knocks if we're gonna add to Nick's knocks for the day. LeBlanc and Sherrick McManus. Oh my gosh. After Porter went out after hitting Eli on that awkward slide that he had, McManus left Victor Cruz wide open in coverage. Like this is why he's playing more special teams, because he's better as a gunner there than he is in coverage. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. Like, he just left Victor Cruz on Eli's scramble. I don't know. Like, you cannot just leave guys. I know it's scramble drill, but you've got to stay on your guy, regardless if you're in coverage or not. At that point, stay on your man. And Sherrick just left Victor Cruz, and that was just so disappointing for me to see. And LeBlanc, too, he had left wide open coverage on or no, it was Demontre Hurst who left Sterling Shepard wide open on that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't looking for him. And Deion Bush was just kind of left out to dry because he was too far over watching the outside route.
Yeah.
And I thought Deion Bush played a pretty solid game today for the most part. I can't blame him for the one Sterling Shepard because he was in his coverage. And Hurst has to be able to stay on his guy in those situations when you're not even looking for him. That's kind of embarrassing in my mind. So I have to give knocks to both McManus and Hurst today. I know you got to be able to step in when guys go down, but we got to do a little bit better than that, guys.
I think so too. And you know what was very disappointing to me, Brandon? It was that Adrian Amos had his first career interception in his hands, and that would have kept points off the board, but he just dropped it. You know, we've been waiting forever now for him to make not that he doesn't make impact plays, but these are
I think it's been a
turnovers.
couple bold predictions in the preview show that Adrian Amos gets his first interception. It wasn't even one this week, and he almost had it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just he's looking not to make that interception. That hit him right in the hands. That he's it's I
It
wonder
did.
does he have bad hands? Can he just not catch an interception? I don't get it. It's at this point, the Bears defense has been lacking, turnover type plays this entire season. That would have been a huge one. So that was disappointing for me, especially because it hit the guy right in the hands. So that needs to definitely improve. But yeah, go right ahead.
Another big play we could have had was when DeMontre Hurst almost had the interception when Eli was getting chased by Purnell. But that has just got to be a play that's being made. If Eli's just going to throw you the ball, you got to be able to catch it.
I feel like Bears teams in the past, Bears, guys who played in secondary, but guys who played on defense, when there's an opportunity to make a play, they make it. This Bears, defense is obviously gotten a lot better since last season, or they've gotten better, but they don't have that instinct. I feel like when there's an opportunity to make a big, difference making play to cause a turnover, create a turnover, it just isn't there. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way I feel. I don't know if you feel the same way, but we've seen it. We're accustomed Bears defenses in the past to just create turnovers, score off of turnovers. Sometimes they win game just by playing defense. This Bears team, I just don't see that. It's offense has to go out there and score all the points, no doubt about that, and then the defense kind of just keeps them in the game. Won't be a huge point in making a big change in the game with a turnover, something like that.
The inexperience in the secondary, I think, plays a big part in that.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, Brandon, what would you say the defense did well today?
They did well in stopping the run. I thought they did a pretty good job of stopping the run today. It wasn't the best run-stopping game they've had. They ended up giving up 102 yards, 85 to Rashad Jennings, which the rushing game for the Giants has gotten better. In the last two games, it's been pretty much non-existent, but they did a pretty good job, I thought, of keeping the New York rushing attack in check.
Gotcha. I'll go with that. My big what they did well is just, I guess, keeping Odell Beckham, not containing him, and he didn't have a game that we're usually used to seeing from Odell, where he's just making these incredible catches and just burning defenders. They kept him in check, which was good to see. What would you say is something that the unit has to work on moving forward, going against Tennessee, who lit up the Green Bay Packers just a couple weeks ago?
I would have to say kind of what we just talked about, making the impactful turnover. We haven't seen very many turnovers this year. Sam Macho had the forced fumble, but it went out of bounds, so still giant ball. But just making an impact on the game, a bigger impact, turnovers, create them, force them. I mean, do something to help the offense out, especially when they're stagnant. They've got to have the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, I would. That's a good one to say. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously they need to create turnovers because this all help. And if they can work with a shorter field, maybe they can put up some more points. So they got to help out this offense by creating turnovers, because obviously the offense isn't getting the job done, only scoring 16 today. But yeah, creating turnovers is a huge thing that the Bears defense has, had to work on all season. And next week in Tennessee, it doesn't change, or next week in Chicago playing Tennessee, it doesn't change. So Brandon, yeah, were you going to say something? I heard you.
Just to add to your point on them being in the short field, the Bears were 2 for 2 in the red zone today. Fun fact.
There you go. See, I mean, yes, they've been honestly terrible this season in the red zone, just putting up points. So, but today, that's a step forward in the right direction. But still, the points the points weren't there, but they did score when they were there in the red zone. So, yeah, you could take it how you want it, but obviously there's a lot. There's a lot
more than 2 trips would be nice.
Exactly. So more than 2 trips would be when they were in there. So with that, Brandon, we're going to enter our fourth quarter of the show, and we're going to talk about special teams. And man, when Connor Barth missed that extra point, I'm like, great. Then Robbie Gould, of course, we're playing Robbie Gould, and then he goes out and misses the extra point. I'm like, what's going on? Regardless of what kicker we would have had, they're going to miss their extra point. What did you see from the special teams, maybe with the kickers, with Pat O'Donnell, who was a plus for this team, probably the brightest spot on this Bears team today because he had some huge punch that really shifted field position. What would you say were some good things you saw from special teams?
I would say Pat O'Donnell maybe got snubbed for most valuable Bear today.
Yeah, really.
A 63 and a 57-yard punt, I think, were the two punts that he had, the two big ones.
Hmm.
His ability to flip the field position today was excellent. Very, very happy to see that. I wish that Bellamy would have been able to recover that fumble on the one punt, the 57-yarder. Looking back, that's just kind of, I wish that would have happened. But at the time, that was okay. I don't think they scored on that drive, so it turned out to be all right. Will said in the group me he wants Robbie back, and then Robbie missed the second extra point. So I pretty much told him to pick your poison. Connor missed the 54-yarder, which would have helped put a little more momentum in the offensive step. But from 54 on a windy day, I mean, even in Chicago, that's going to be a tough kick. So overall, Connor Barth needs to do. I agree, he does need to play a little bit better when kicking field goals. He was playing pretty well up until this game. He missed the extra point in the 54-yarder today. So points are nice when the offense doesn't put up more than 16, 17 points. So Connor's got to work on his accuracy still.
Yeah, and that's a little concerning because that's the weather that you're going to have in Chicago. I mean, it's going to be windy. Field conditions are not going to be ideal. Yeah, from this point forward. So, Connor Barth, you better know that this is what you're going to be, going up against, these winds, these terrible field conditions. And Soldier Field, we all know the field conditions are there, so have to get more accurate. Pat O'Donnell, keep doing what you're doing, man. That was amazing. I mean, the way he switched field position, like we said, even Will would have been proud. And he did get snubbed for our most valuable Bear because, I mean, I think that was like a very, obviously change field position was a huge impact in this game. So let's talk about some crucial moments in this game, Brandon. I think you really hit on it. And I'm not even going to go first because you might hit on it before I do. What would you say are some crucial moments or a crucial moment that happened in the game?
I'm going to go with my monster moments. The three and outs that the Bears defense forced the Giants in the fourth quarter. That was huge for just confidence in general, keeping them in the game like that. That just stands out to me because normally in the past couple games this year, we've seen the Bears defense just kind of fall apart when we need them to step up, and they were able to force a couple 3-and-outs today in the fourth quarter. So those are my crucial moments. For offense, I'll throw into Marquise Wilson on that 35-yard reception. Is the only one he had to start what I thought would be a comeback drive. It looked real nice. The sack and the fumble kind of pushed that backwards, but I thought it was a good start to try and start a comeback drive. It didn't obviously work out, but I'll give those 4 my crucial moments of the game.
Yeah, honestly, when I was trying to think of like crucial moments on here, and that's why I said it to you first because you were definitely going to say those, and I'm gonna piggyback off you because, like you said, they kept the defense, which the first 2 drives gave up touchdowns in that second half, and then they suddenly start 3-and-out 1, 3-and-out 2, then a third 3-and-out. It kept the Bears in the game, and when I was watching that final drive for the Bears offense, man, they can win. They have a chance. And, Jay Cutler tries to do too much by avoiding the pressure and just, like we said, he kind of threw off his back foot and obviously the interception. But that was a crucial moment in the game. Those 3 3-and-outs were crucial for just keeping the Bears in the game to have an opportunity at the end to go and win the game. So going on Twitter here for the fan poll results, we don't have a grade the game. But Brandon, I still want to hear what you would have given the game, even though we don't have what our fans have. But Brandon, what would you give this game at a letter grade?
Comparatively speaking, for the whole year, I'd give this a C+ to a B-. They were in the game. There were a lot of good, positive things that I seen, and a touchdown and an extra point, which apparently are hard to come by in the NFL today. Anyway, I think they missed 8 for the whole day. The whole league did. But just a touchdown and extra point would have won the game. And frankly, that's the closest we've been since the win against Minnesota, which was only 2 weeks ago, but it felt like forever ago. So I think there were a lot of good things I've seen today. So I'll give it a C+ to B-. Still some things to work on.
I'm gonna factor in before you guys knock me on my grade. I'm gonna factor in that the Bears got beat up today, you guys. Secondary, defensive line, linebackers got injured. Offensive linemen went down. We're playing with our second, third string wide receivers. The Bears were in it up to the final of this game against a Giants team. And looking back at it, the Bears they weren't supposed to be in this game. People thought the Bears would roll over and just get blown out. And for the way they played a great first half. But like we said before, it's been a tale of two halves for this team. So if I were to grade it, I give it a B. Yes, we lost. This is the Bears, like we said, Brandon and I said they were in this game. Really, they did a lot of things and they should have won. I think they should have won, but obviously that wasn't the result. But this team does show some fight despite all the injuries that it's faced all season. But we do have some fan poll results, and here's one that Will created. Did you actually miss Bobby Massey today? And guys, 53% said yes. So
Is he watching the show?
He might be watching the show. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe, I don't know when that poll was created, but maybe it was during the show after I brought it up.
It was created 28 minutes ago, so maybe they are.
So maybe he is
maybe
watching.
he's watching. So right. Thanks, Will, for watching. If you are, and here's the second poll question: if Deion Bush can get the start, hey, I think he is watching because this goes back to what we were talking about. Shouldn't the Bears just give our man Daniel Braverman some playing time? And then
isn't that what you just said?
Yeah, I think Will's a watch. Thanks, Will, for supporting us. But all right, the 90 out of 38 votes, 98% of people said yes. Daniel Braverman should absolutely get a shot. And I agree with both of these Twitter poll questions. Give Daniel Braverman a shot, and I actually do miss Bobby Massey. Yes. Crazy that I'd be saying this. Crazy, crazy. All right, and before we get into our 2-minute warning the show, guys. I just want you to send prayers out to Leonard Floyd, because when I saw that injury, I'm not going to lie, I got a little emotional, only because, man, that guy, injuries are horrible, and it unfortunately happens that, it can happen to anybody. But man, when it's a guy that it's a young and upcoming player, and just the way he got injured, I just hope and pray that he's okay. I'm getting his jersey in a couple of days, and this guy, has been such an impactful and such a bright spot in this young team. Send your prayers out to Leonard Floyd, because, that is a scary injury. Anything with the neck area obviously is nothing that you want to play around with. So please just send out your prayers, and hopefully Leonard Floyd can make a speedy recovery. All right, Brandon. Next up, the Bears are going against the Titans, and I was actually considering going to the game. And then Alshon Jeffrey got suspended. Kyle Long went on injured reserve. Josh Sinnon's now injured. All the injuries are happening. So I most likely are just going to, watch from home, maybe have a couple beers. But, yeah, I'm just going to watch home. They played the same time the Bears did. So, obviously, we weren't able to see, what the Titans were doing. But you'll be watching for when you review the tape. Do you have any notes that you did beforehand, or you have any comments about this Titans team moving forward?
Yeah, they lost to the Colts today, 24-17. Marcus Mariota went 25-38 for 290 yards. He was sacked 5 times, so maybe it will be a spark for the defensive front seven for those Bears to go get after him, even though he is a very mobile quarterback. DeMarco Murray had 21 carries for 70 yards. We know what he's done in his past. Very solid runner. I think that this Titans team was starting to get hot. They beat Green Bay, fell to Indianapolis. Tough to tell what next week will bring, whether or not they'll continue playing very well or not. Got to watch the tape against Colts here. But for the most part, it'll be an interesting game, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it'll be one that the Bears can hang in.
Yeah, they did it this week against the Giants. Maybe they can do it against the Titans next week. But now, Brandon, we will enter into our 2-minute warning. This is where we wrap up our thoughts on this game, put them into a season-long perspective, and look ahead to next week or the next 2 weeks, or we'll see how long people keep looking forward to the season. But Brandon, I'm gonna give it to you. What is your 2-minute warning for this team?
There were a lot of positives to take away from today. They were in the game, first of all. They controlled time of possession by a minute, which I think was big after the defense was on the field for 40 minutes against the Bucks. I think they're headed in the right direction again. If they can overcome some of these injuries, hopefully Leonard Floyd comes back next week, like we've talked about. Hopefully Zach Miller, Bobby Massey all come back. All are going to make a big difference. I think as far as play calling is concerned, I like the balance that the Bears brought today. I think that was part of the reason why they were able to stay in it. I'd like to see that trend continue instead of Jordan Howard getting only 15 carries instead of 17 and Langford getting 6 today. I'd like to see more of that, what we've seen today, instead of just Jordan Howard getting 15. That's essentially it for the day. I don't think Cutler needs to air it out quite as much. I don't think he needs to be the playmaker that I think he wants to be. You just got to keep it balanced. We know that the strength's in the running game. You got to keep the defense honest and do a couple run fakes, air it out. For defense, the secondary, they just need to get out there and play a little bit. The inexperience kind of hurt with the Demontre Hurst and Sherrick McManus getting beat a couple times today. They did do a good job of keeping Odell Beckham Jr. intact. I imagine they will be able to do that against the Titans, as they don't have quite the playmaker that Odell is.
Oh no.
But for the most part, I like where this team's headed. Rome wasn't built in the day. I like where this team's headed. There's a lot of young talent. I think Deion Bush gets another start next week against the Titans. So I see a lot of bright spots coming. I don't know that the end of the tunnel's here yet, but the light's starting to glimmer, I think. A lot of bright spots to take away from this game.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to go, build off of that, Brandon. For you Bears fans who think that this team is absolutely garbage, has no type of future, just to start over for this franchise, just, you know what? Honestly, cut it out. Because this Bears team is moving in the right direction. The wins aren't there. They aren't. And it's a young team. Fox and Ryan Pace took over a very young team, very inexperienced team, and had to build off of, a lot of veterans leaving. Before they came in, Urlacher, Briggs, Tilton, they had all these great players. Those guys are gone, and now this is a new Bears team. And Brandon said it, Rome was not built in a day. Winning football teams are not built in a day. They're built through the draft. And Ryan Pace has, had 2 great drafts where there have been young key playmakers who are starting, producing early on in their careers. Give it some time, you guys. This is not a Bears team. There's no way they're winning a Super Bowl like next season or anything. They're trying to build up to become a more consistent team. I always bring up the Cubs. Theo Epstein, first 3 years, Cubs were in last place in the NL Central. Took time. Give it some time. There are some key young players on this team. Maybe they need a new quarterback. Maybe, things need to be obviously worked on, especially in the second half of ball games where the Bears have just, given up chances to win. But just watch these young players develop, because the Bears do have a lot of them. And even John Lynch was addressing that today. There's a lot of young talent on this team. So don't give up on them. You can give up on them, honestly, this season. I don't think that that's a problem. But, hey, look for next season. Let's see what another draft will do for the Bears. A lifeblood of an organization to become a good football team is through the draft, and to remain a good football team is through the draft. And I think Ryan Pace is a guy who knows what he's doing. Give John Fox some time. Yes, I know you don't want to hear that. Bears, a lot of fans don't want to hear that. But, hey, I think he's still the right guy. They just need to do a lot better job out of halftime, because that's where people are questioning, geez, is this guy even coaching? But it's a lot more than just John Fox. Dal Loggins, Vic Fangio need to get their stuff together too. Need to get some more playmakers on all sides of the ball. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching this live or the replay of this podcast. And of course, I would like to also I want to thank our podcast listeners. Thank you guys. It means so much that you support us through thick and thin. Thank you so much. Again, the Bears unfortunately did lose today, 16-22, but there are a lot of bright spots. And, moving forward, I expect to see more of them. We will be back soon with our Week 12 breakdown later on in the week, pregame show for the Tennessee Titans. And we'll see you soon. But until then, bear down, Chicago.